Okay, so what you have here is a wonderful example of an early carriage. And it has, as what I said, the wonderful things that insects love. It has leather, it has horsehair, it has cloth, wood. These are the things that pests love. They love to eat them, they love to burrow them, they love to live in them. So the question becomes, how do you stop that from happening? Yeah, it's difficult. What you really need to do is vigilance. Right? And vigilance means putting in pest traps. Now, the pest traps are pest monitors. They're not actually traps. You talk about those ones with the pheromones and, you know, they'll attract the pests. That's what you don't want. You know, you do not want pests attracted to this thing. So don't go with those pheromone enhanced things, because yes, they will go into the trap, but they will also do things like, well, wait a second, this actually tastes better than what's in the trap. So what you want to do is monitor the activity of the pests that are in your area. So you put down a couple of pest traps on the floor, possibly one inside there, right? I noticed that you do have these things which are probably redwood, because the going idea is that redwood or cedar, I guess, will push the bugs away. In this kind of environment, probably not so much, right? They don't hurt, right? So if you want to keep them there, please, by all means do. But remember that this is not a panacea. It's not going to stop them from coming, because they'll look at that and go, well, okay, that's fine. We'll just go over here, all right, and go somewhere else. Right? You have too much environment in here for this to do much good. So how do you, besides the pest monitors, which you can just buy on, you know, Google or Amazon or whatever, and put them together, put them in there. What you can do is make sure that the dust accumulation is kept to a minimum. And how do you do that? You do that through vacuuming very softly, as well as dusting. Right? The dust on the top can come off. Now, you might see that's kind of dusty. Right? So one of these guys, well, I'll just use this. Right? Actually, I'll use both. Right? One of these guys is actually really good in that on metal surfaces, on flat surfaces, on things like that, you just push that across, and yeah, you've got some dust right there. So just taking care of the dust, right? Going through like that. That helps an awful lot. The other thing that it does, oddly enough, is prevent rust. How can dusting prevent rust? All that dust, right, provides a lot of area for water moisture, for water vapor to find a home. Once that water vapor finds a home, it stays there. Now, it's really dry in California. We know that, you know, with relative humidities down in the teens or the singles. Right? So how often does that happen? Every winter. Right? So what you have are big fluctuations in relative humidity in California and in Los Angeles and San Gabriel specifically. So what you want to do is keep the dust down to nothing. Right? Or as close to nothing as you get. Now, of course, you've got a door right there that's going to open and bring all that dust in, and you have people that come in, and the people will spread dust. Right? So you want to, we have what's at the Autry Museum, we have a group of volunteers called the Buffalo Dusters. Right? And they come in every 2 weeks on a Monday, right? And they dust. Now, it happens otherwise as well. Custodial does a little bit and all that kind of thing. They don't dust the artifacts. But in a museum like this, you're going to have to dust the artifacts. Right? You don't have a conservator on staff. You don't have collections people on staff. So you have to do it yourself. The number one thing to remember is do no harm. So if you come up to something and you dust it and you feel a little grip, back it off. Right? Don't fight through where you find a little catch. Because what that means is these dusters are great, but they've got all sorts of little fibers on them, and they can pull stuff off. So especially on wood, if you're doing on wood and you feel, oh, no, there was something there, all right? Just back it off. Leave it alone, all right? You might want to vacuum it if it's inside or something like that, but just, oh, no, there's something there. bring it back. Do not go, oh, there's something there, well, I gotta finish it. You know, it's, do no harm is the number one thing. All right, now, here we get to the limits of dusting. When you're looking at something like this cloth right here, or the leather, and you can see with the leather that there's little holes in it, there's little specks of what's known as frass, that's insect poop, right?
How do you spell that?
Frass. Yeah. The duster, like this, do not stroke it, right? You can
Pat it, huh?
pat it
Pat
a
it.
little bit like that, right? But even better, a vacuum with a very low suction. You want to make sure that whenever you vacuum something, that you do not pull fibers out of the artifact itself. And here's a trick. You know that screening that you get for your windows, right? You get that screening and you cut out about a 6-inch square of the screening, right? And then you tape along the edge, right? So that you can hold it. And then what you do is you take your vacuum cleaner, the end of your vacuum cleaner, and you put the screen in front of whatever you're vacuuming. So that means it's going to take up the dust but not affect the fibers at all.
Mm.
Right? That acts as a barrier to anything that's coming through. Right? Now this is, it's tedious, right? But it is necessary in order to take proper care of the artifacts within. Now, inside, you've got some relative damage going on. Like if you have a good look at that far end right there, right? Now you use a vacuum on that, and that's gonna pull up that leather, right? And not only is it gonna pull up the leather and cause a bit more damage, but it might also pull up what's inside, right? Some of that horsehair, which is original to the piece, and so is considered part of the original construction, right? And you wanna keep that, by the way. Anybody that says, oh no, you've gotta get rid of the interior because bugs love the interior, no, right? In order to have an authentic artifact, the components of that artifact must also be intact, okay? It's one of those tenets of the museum world, right? Just because it might be easier or it might look better, right? It might, restore, and there's a huge difference between restoration and preservation and conservation. Well, preservation and conservation and restoration. You don't want to make this look new, right? It loses its story, it loses everything about it to make it brand new. So,
What's the difference between the other two? You say
preservation and conservation, I like to think of it as preservation is the strategy that you use in order to preserve and maintain the construction of something. Conservation are the actual treatments that you perform.
I see.
Right? Preservation is more or less a
Concept.
yeah, it's a concept, and conservation is the activity.
The activity, okay.
Okay. So how do you then clean that area right there? Well, you can use that idea of the screen in front of the vacuum, right? Or you can very lightly go in with a duster and tab it. Just pat it a little bit, and that will take care of it. The good thing about getting down and dirty with the artifacts is that you do an examination at the same time, right? So while you're doing this, or this, you can say, oh, okay, I have something right there. What's going on? Is that do I need to take care of that? No, I don't need to take care of that. That's just a little bit of a stain. Oh, but look, I have something right there that looks like an insect may have gotten on it, right? So you want to, while doing this, you can actually do a very good examination of the artifact at the same time, right? Is there a chip in this corner? No, there's not, but there's some paint loss right there, right? What is that anyway? See what I'm saying? So while you're doing this, you can actually really get to know your artifact, more so than you probably ever did. Now, here comes the other idea about nobody has a good memory. When you've got this many artifacts in your space, you're going to go back and go, was that there the last time? I can't remember if that was there the last time. How do I go? How do you do that? You get out your phone, you take a photo, all right? You take that photo and you send it to yourself or to the museum, right? And you take the file, wherever the file is, your photo file, and you put that in there. And that way, let's say 50 years from now, somebody comes in and goes, is that new? They can go to the file, and they can look at that photo and go, nope, that was there 50 years ago, it's okay.
So
All right?
photos are the best thing to record with.
Yeah, oh, phones are wonderful. I mean, phones are just, they're fast, they're good. I mean, the quality of the photos on a phone are really, really good
Cheap.
now, right? They're cheap, they're relatively cheap. And the thing is that from your phone, you can send them to whoever you need
Yeah,
to.
yeah,
So
that sounds
if you
good.
have a conservator,
Yeah.
for instance,
No, that sounds
right?
good.
And you may say, I have a different kind of bug, I've never seen this bug before. Can you tell me what this bug is? Right? There are bug people out there, right? That you can just, and they'll say, oh, that's a beetle from wherever. Right? So these are the things that you can do when you're looking at the artifacts. So when you're actually doing the cleaning, always remember that it's light, right? The wood here is not so bad, but the leather, you more or less just want to pat it if you're dusting, like that. Or if you're gonna use a vacuum, you see, I pulled up a fair bit of dust just by patting it, right? There's a static charge on here, right? And there's also lots and lots of surface area, right? And it will do the trick. I mean, it will bring up some dust. You don't need to go at this like this. You don't even need to go at it with this thing on here and go like that, right? That's not necessary, right? Right here, there's a fair bit of dust right there. And you can,
See, I would never have thought of using my hand.
yes, yeah, oh no, hands actually are, although these come really handy for doing up here, right? Hands I find are the best, because you know how
You
much
can
pressure.
feel it.
You can feel it. You know how much pressure you're putting on it, right? And you can also know when to stop. With this one, all the information is third, fourth hand, so to speak, right? With this, it's immediate. You know what's going on here. And this one, oh, look at that. I can just lightly, yeah, dust that, right? Same here on the wheels. Take that.
What about like the oil from your hands? Let's say that we open and close the door and so your oily
Yeah.
hand. or-
Okay. Oily hands, the gloves, right?
Oh,
I have a whole thing about that. And you can buy nitrile gloves, right? Or whatever you're not allergic to gloves, right? Some people are allergic to latex or whatever, right? And you can wear gloves when you're working on these things. And it's a good idea to do that, right? Especially for metal, for wood, for textiles. If you're going to be actually handling them, yes, you might wear some gloves. However, here's the thing about gloves, right? There's actually a couple of things about gloves. When you're wearing gloves, make sure they fit, right? If they're too loose, then they're flopping all over the place and you don't have any sense of control. If they're too tight, you start to lose the feeling in your fingers really, really fast. You'd be amazed at what the lack of blood flow to the extremities causes in your lack of sensation. So when you get a pair that fit. Here's the other thing about gloves. Gloves are, yes, for the protection of the artifact, but they're also for the protection of you. You don't know where a lot of these artifacts have been, right? Well, they've been here for a long time, but you don't know where they've been before that, right? Also, a lot of dust gets on them. If you're dusty or you're handling or cloth or leather or wood, even metal, right? You don't know exactly what's on there. So when your I think gloves are for your protection as much as they are for the artifacts, all right? That being said, don't do this.
That's the normal.
Right? Don't do this, don't do that, right? When you got your gloves on, don't take whatever was on those artifacts and put it in your face, right? Wash your hands after, and also remember that when you're wearing gloves, if you wear gloves for the entire time that you're cleaning, right, you're gonna be moving dirt from one side to over there, right? Moving dirt from that thing to that thing, all right? So what
Well,
good
no,
are the
I
ghosts?
I
Change
suggested
the
not
ghosts?
to, for us, those